sales for San Francisco. So super exciting, and I want to take you through the process step by step on how we got there, how we prepared it, and what the results were. So take a look. Hey everyone, Max Armour of Compass here, selling San Francisco's most amazing properties. And of course, this is an amazing property. Real estate is entertainment. You gotta tell a good story. You gotta have a movie people wanna go and see. So getting a property ready to present to the market is absolutely key. This is what value is all about, right? It's how the property feels. What kind of emotions does it elicit in you, right? What happens when you arrive? So we really think about all those things when we're getting a property ready. This property has amazing views, great drama, just absolute sophistication and luxury. So we want to match that level of intensity when it comes to our prep. So we get everything cleaned up, windows perfect, right? All the mirrors get polished and absolutely dialed. The floors get polished and shining and gleaming, right? And then the staging set in a way that makes you feel welcome, comfortable, but also exudes a nice, sort of elegance and luxury. The Penthouses at 999 Green were owned by George and Charlotte Schultz, and they had lived there for decades. To get these things ready, took a lot of time to get their personal effects out. This is part of, what I do, but also, core piece of my philosophy, which is the 6 Ps. Prior preparation prevents piss poor performance. Getting a place ready is key to then, being able to transform it into a marketable item. Part of the prep, once we, were able to empty the property, just really has to deal with not deferred maintenance, but upkeep. And the laundry list is relatively extensive, and dealing with the penthouse, which is the 32nd and 33rd floor of a high rise, creates some challenges to say the least. Starting with window cleaning, because this particular building does not provide that. So we had to source a vendor who was capable of taking care of these gigantic windows at a really high altitude with wind and fog and whatnot. Then also, including, we had all the interiors to think about as well. And that just starts from the floors and, working up the walls. And these particular floors were mostly stone on the entertaining levels that were polished and, sort of detailed. And then the rest of it was pretty much carpet, and that was all replaced. And that was a major job. These two penthouses together were 10,500 square feet. So these are big units. And they had sort of these floating staircases, curved staircases as well. That's a little tricky for carpet installation. But we have a great carpet vendor who's professional and was able to source the type of carpet we wanted too, because this was right in the middle of all this supply chain issues and everybody wanted carpet apparently at the same time. But our vendor was able to source some good carpet for us, which at times can be as much as 4 to 6 months lead time. Your best return of investment in your life, it will be paint, truly, because it transforms a property. Not too expensive, but has a lot of impact. And there were walls that were covered with silk that had picture frames and mirrors on them and were faded and we just weren't going to be able to use any of it. So we had to take all that down, resurface the walls and paint them. Like what this will look like when it's done will look nothing like this. It'll feel luxurious and amazing and fresh and basically brand new because there's new carpet, freshly painted and beautifully staged. If we just sort of emptied all this out and put it on the market, right, this would not evoke the same emotion as it would, from the work that we're going to do. One thing I absolutely adore is the interior design sort of thought process for these properties. I knew the moment I stepped into these units that they were incredibly unique, and I really wanted a stager who was going to be able to bring out the best qualities of these units with their furniture and artwork. And so coordinating with Vesta and their designers, we spent quite a bit of time discussing the look and feel of how we want to present them.
So Max has done a few really awesome projects with Vesta, and obviously, when you're working on something as high-end as this, there's a lot of custom pieces that are coming into it. It's a lot more involved than just your generic two-bedroom house staging, whatever it may be. So that's something that's very fun to work with Max because he has very interesting properties, and it really gives us an opportunity to make something that's unique, fun, different, and hopefully a showstopper.
Being very, very thoughtful about our design process is important because I feel it adds a tremendous amount of value to the property. Because every buyer, their first interaction with the property is, of course, online. This is how we all operate these days. And so in terms of the furniture and the design and the art placement and the flowers and the plants, all of this goes together in terms of providing the backdrop for the photography and the video.
Can you point out all the homes you sold?
I grew up right there. Yeah. When I went to Cathedral right there, that was our K through 8. So I walked to school every day for 9 years uphill both ways. Everybody loves a good primary bedroom. And here's another great size, right? It's a beautiful shape. It's great, great size. You have room for couch, right? Great bed, like it has views. And here, with paint and staging, it'll just bring it to life. Bring it to life where you're like, yes, I get it. This is where I want to sleep, right here. And if you didn't do it, you wouldn't be able to get that emotion out. It would just be another room. Paint, staging, clean, making sure that no stone is left unturned. We don't need to remodel places for them to feel great. This is what is achievable for everybody, whatever your price point is. There are techniques that can be utilized to really elevate the level of your home, which adds the value and the desirability, and you're not going to be the only property for sale. You are in competition with other homes. So you want yourself to have the best competitive advantage possible, and you can control that, right? We can't control the market, good market, bad market, but we can control how we present property, and doing it in a mindful way will add value. So photography and video in terms of our media production is incredibly important. I tell people all the time, I'm not a real estate agent, I'm a production manager. That's what I am. Because nowadays this is the pretty much the most important aspect of our marketing is creating imagery and creating videos and creating the digital look and feel that buyers are going to be interacting with. So I can't express the importance enough, and we choose the best photographers and the best videographer that I know to be able to capture this. And these particular units, being penthouses, being the entire top 2 floors of a 32-story or 33-story building, I knew that we had to really elevate our game and capture the spirit of this building. And we spent mornings there capturing the sunrise, evenings there catching the sunset, nighttime shots, time lapses, so many different ways of again, capturing the moods of the property during different times of the day. And I think the results speak for themselves, where the imagery and the videography for these two units were stunning, truly, truly stunning. And that's a combination of really being very, very thoughtful in terms of our prep and our staging, and then, excellent, high-end professional, vendors to capture that. And we wait for the weather to be on our side, but we also want to get some fog and some clouds in there to feel the drama, because when you're in those units in person, it's so impactful, the views, and it is moving art, looking out onto the bay and the city, and so we spent hours capturing that, but it's really fun. It's, again, another piece of the process that I really enjoy is sort of giving art direction in terms of what I'm looking for and what we want to see, the results of the imagery. And this was a very, very special unit to be able to execute that on. And again, it was fun, and it turned out amazing. This is part of the storytelling that I like to do about a property, is really sort of give it its due justice, frame it and position it in a way that is very targeted to the people who are looking for this type of property, identifying who they are and doing a very, very targeted approach in our marketing to reach them. In my 20 years of selling, social media has really given us another platform, to use. And there's multiple platforms on social media, whether it's LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook. There are lots of venues for us to utilize. We also do print ads, and for this particular property, we got a lot of PR, which was interesting and fun to put that out there with such significant names of people who owned it. Major publications like the Wall Street Journal picked this up, and we got national press for these. When I sell these high-end uber luxury properties, we don't hold open houses to the general public, but we of course still want people to come. So we create events, invite-only events for people, and we have different themes or different speakers or entertainments, to bring people in. But this one, particular for 999 Green, I knew that people were very, very curious to see what was up there. And we did 2 different events. In one of them, we partnered with our stager for them to sort of co-host it as well, which was fun for them to be involved, and it's great for us too to co-brand with a great company. And that event, we had about 100 people come through for that. But I also had another event where we invited just the building, because often the buyer for the penthouse units in a building goes to somebody who already lives in the building. Between those 2 events, we got a lot of traction, and luckily for us, the weather also cooperated on both those evenings, and they were fantastic. We had food and drink and entertainment, and it was all fun was had by all. So that's another key element for our marketing strategy, is hosting a couple of events to make sure that people get in to help us spread the word and tell the story of the property. For this particular listing, I was able to team up with Karen Mendelson Gould, another fellow Compass agent. This was a significant property in a building that has a large HOA, and it was gonna be complicated no matter what. We had 2 different estates to represent, and each attorney for those estates chose their own agent. And I know Karen from way back, and I respect her and enjoy working with her. Since there were 2 penthouses for sale, we had a lot of discussions internally in terms of, will there be 2 buyers or 1 buyer? Which is a great question. They have traditionally, those 2 units have mostly been owned by 1 owner at the same time. There have been instances where there were 2 separate owners, but more so than not, both the North and South Penthouses were owned by one party. And pricing these, you can add a 7th P for my 6 Ps, right? And the 7th P would be pricing. Prior preparation and pricing helps prevent piss poor performance. And pricing of these was, we really thought about, right, what had sold, what are the comps, the pros and cons, and twisted and turned the properties over and over and over, and came up with a pricing that we felt was truly market value. We ended up having interests on the individual units and buyers for both. It was 50-50 at the end of the day in terms of how many people were interested in them individually and how many people were interested in both. This ended up being, because one buyer bought both, the highest price ever paid for a condo. So that result was amazing, but it also shows how rare these type of properties are. San Francisco is my hometown. I've lived here basically my whole life. I was born here, I was raised here, and being able to sell these amazing units that I grew up next door to really was incredibly special for me. It really was an amazing process, and I enjoyed it tremendously, and I can't wait to get on the next one. So thanks for listening to our case study, and we'll see you out there.